Hey, I got you a present. Turn around. Hey, I got you a present. Read it. You're on Sarah, too.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. His Twitter session expired, so I can't broadcast the link. So, well, it is live.
So who's our fearless leader that wanted to talk about this?
She's not here. I don't know where she is.
When I saw food written on the board, I was like, wow, that's cool. And because my thought process when I saw that written, I thought because food is so important to human beings, the idea of food, nurturing us and keeping us healthy, so much. It's this metaphor for the Spirit, the Holy Spirit feeds us and nurtures us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my thought process is, how can you create some kind of, how can we create church around that idea of having food as this centerpiece and creating opportunities for people to worship together with that kind of concept, I mean, that's what clicked in my head.
Mm-hmm. Well, we did dinner church for Lent to try it out to see what that looked like and if people enjoyed it. So we had people come at 6 o'clock with food, and then they sat down, and for about 15, 20 minutes we spent time just in general conversation, waiting for others to come in as they were getting off of work. And then we had a liturgy on a piece of paper, and so we went through part of the service, and then in the center was communion, and we continued after the rest of the service, but people were eating the whole time. So it was just getting used to, oh, someone's going to pray, eating. Yeah. It's okay. Like, we had to give people permission. And I talked about how this is an ancient practice. Like, Jesus would have had a meal with the disciples, and they would have had communion. Like, this is something that has been done before, so it's okay. Giving that permission really worked well. So I'd like to see that as kind of a regular service. And St. Lydia's in Brooklyn does that, but they have it that people come earlier and make food together. Mm-hmm. And so I've been thinking a lot about, we have a food bank in town that I help out at, and we have community gardens that are doing really amazing things, but people don't know how to cook fresh produce because they're not used to it. They're used to a can of crab that they open and heat up, and that's their dinner. And so I've been trying to think of creative ways of well, if we do this dinner church and we would create a meal together, that could educate someone on how to, properly cook something that, like a radish or an artichoke, something that they may never have seen. A turnip, how do I make a turnip? What do I do with that? So those are types of things that I'm trying to figure out new creative ways to do that.
So this garden?
Yeah, garden dinner. Yeah, and I love what you all are doing.
Yeah, the breakfast we keep separate from worship in that some people, we knew that a good, healthy, nutritious breakfast was a need in the community, so we didn't want to make it look like if you're gonna breakfast, you have to worship, you know, want to feed people first, you know. So people started, but then as people kind of realized we weren't going to force them to worship, they started staying a little into it, and a few people now are regular worshipers who never worshiped begin with, you know.
Yeah.
But so we intentionally keep it separate though, because we know that the most important thing for us, or as important, is the actual nourishment and then spiritual nourishment. Yeah, they want hand in hand, but we wanted them separate so people wouldn't feel like they had to be part of a big community that get for sure. Sure.
So you do it, is that Sunday morning?
Saturday morning.
Saturday.
Yeah, because we were doing Sunday morning when we were our old church. Our
Okay.
church closed. So we started doing it for the Sunday school teachers decided to feed the kids that were coming for Sunday school without their parents. So the kids, it was very selfishly behaved better. And so we went, and I was like, I was the director of Christian Acts. I was just, you guys are gonna have to make it happen, you know, and they did. But so we went out and passed flyers in the neighborhood, and the first, on rally day, you know, we did that the first thing, and only like 7 men came who like clearly had slept outside. This was, you know, walking into our antique furnished parish house with some of our older members like freaking out. They knew we were going to do the breakfast for the kids, and I was going to be bad enough because they might be hungry. And we just like, I just laughed. God, you know, got such a sense of humor, but that like opened like people will come. Yeah, so we never did any prayer or anything with that. They wanted them, they were going to stay for Bible study. So the Bible study kind of built up for that. And then during season, like Advent and Lent, I started doing this little thing during breakfast, you know, to kind of bring in a little, and that went over okay. But nobody would go over to the sanctuary for worship. But that stuck in our mind that we were building.
We had 2 buildings at the time, so we served breakfast,
Oh,
right, and we'd eat it,
Got
and then you'd have a little bit of a break between breakfast ending and church beginning. You had to go from one building to another. So people would, maybe go for a little while, but then they would disperse. And they wouldn't go into it. And we recognized that the best place, if you're really going to transition in, you do it very soon.
Right.
So you're on the table already in community. And it's a very simple meal. So we tried dinner a few times. We weren't successful in dinner because, think about it, you talk about people being out of work, that's tough. And you get a lot of people all over.
no time is gonna be perfect,
Or
right?
what to make a dinner ahead of the concept of having people come and make it is a great concept, right? What works for us is breakfast is a very simple meal. So, you know, like scrambling an egg, right? Like we'll show up with just a fry pan and, you know, I'll have all the eggs cracked ahead of time so we can just kind of have warm scrambled eggs. That is very simple and something like that where, you know, the bags and stuff out. So, but some guys don't have warm scrambled eggs. To me, that's simple. But a dinner is a harder meal to pull off, right? Because there's a lot more prep that has to get into it and timing and stuff like that.
Well, and so many of our people walk, and the neighborhood, our own neighborhood is safe enough, but getting there through the other neighborhoods just was putting people there, you know, like, so people weren't showing that if it was getting towards the fall or the winter, people just wouldn't even come in the winter,
They
you
want
know,
walking there.
and they know, you know, so we respected that, so now we do once a month lunches now too, but we just bring them a crock pot and stuff, but yeah, the food just.
So we're in a building now that doesn't have a kitchen.
I'm interested in that because we don't have a kitchen either.
Yeah.
So we bring a fry pan and bring crock pots.
Okay.
Crock pots are great.
Yeah.
Also, 5 or 6 crock pots will appear out of nowhere.
We give them a video, yeah.
Crock pot Herman?
Yeah. That's what works well.
You know, we always have fresh fruit even, like that's, our main budget goes for fruit and juice, you know, because we have good quality, you know, it's not just stuff, because other places serve meals, but it's more just packaged stuff, or, you know.
Sure.
So we're cognizant of that and make sure it's as good quality as possible. So.
Yeah.
We're thinking getting a portable dishwasher, because we hate throwing away, you know, paper products. but we don't really, so, but at least having mugs and silver, because we have stuff from the old church that we could use for that, but we don't have storage space for everything else. So that's kind of the next step to be a little more, you know, mind cognizant of that, but, yeah.
And then within our garden, bring us back to the garden, we do gardening kind of whenever, right, during the season. So we just built a few boxes last week.
So now we're up to 8.
8 boxes.
We're up from 3 to 6 to 8.
And the boxes, it's 12 feet by 3 feet. So, we had a cedar, just some 2x4. So it's a very simple box, and then the yard are much of a box. And it just seemed like they grow so well, we keep adding more boxes to it. People are very enthusiastic about preparing. You know, they may not be a gardener, but they like the community of planting or watering and just being there, talking to each other, or picking green beans, right? I hated picking green beans when I was a kid. I get a kick out of it now.
The green beans drive me nuts, because I'm the only one drinking them.
They all come at one time. You know, everything is ready for us, right?
We are planning, with our community garden, we're gonna do canning classes later this summer, because we do
Yeah.
have all of this food that's coming in,
Yeah,
and we're in a food desert, and it's even as many people as we want to feed, there's gonna be surplus.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we're gonna, hopefully, we're working on finding some people to be used.
yeah,
But we wanna do canning classes so people can preserve some of that.
yeah, yeah.
We have another farm, actual farm that we're kind of tied in with, and they, Matthew 25 farms, and they just, I don't
They
know.
grow to give away, like that's their whole purpose
They're
of
out,
being.
they're out in the country and we're in the city, so they really like having us because we're in the city, connected with people. It's kind of a funny story, but we were talking about, before we even made a connection with them, what are we gonna do with, if we could get our hands on vegetables, we're trying to grow our own garden boxes, but there's a market that comes a few blocks away once a month. We went and talked to some of the farmers. We said, what do you have with your surplus? It's like strawberries. You don't need a strawberry soon enough for a rot. You're just looking at the cost of the rot. So the farmers will try to give stuff away at the last minute, but they also, that's their livelihood, so they want to sell it too at the same time. So they're not going to do it. Right, so we've been talking to them a little bit. And Matthew 25 farmers kind of, I think some of you get contact with them. They kind of fell right in, and we're like, wow, awesome, we didn't have plenty of crops to get rid of. So we had talked about getting a wagon and bringing this big wagon in around the neighborhood. We didn't have a wagon, but we're like, wagon, oh, we got those little red wagons. So all of a sudden, somebody showed up with a little red wagon one day, and next thing you know, we had 2 wagons. And then next thing we had 4 wagons, right?
Yeah, somebody gave us one in the neighborhood. Oh, I have another wagon again. Yeah.
So we're going down and
That's a lot for 1,000 pounds. We have to follow the car, because it's like 1,000 pounds of produce.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
so there'll be, you know, people pulling the wagons, and one of them had a squeaky wheel. And we're laughing, and people are going, shoot, put some WD-40 on that. And we're like, well, I kind of like it, you know. It gets
You're the only one that liked it. We're all like,
And then it was like the second or third week, we're walking around, and lady comes from that, she goes, I heard you coming down the street.
It's like I heard you.
I was like, ah, he's right about something. Ah.
But the wagon eventually broke. And so then somebody gave us duct tape, and we duct taped the wheel on, right, or the handlebar was broken. And we went another block, and the guy that, the prior week, he goes to the car body shop. You know, he saw us coming, and we got talking with him, he goes, let me see your wagon. All of a sudden, he takes the wagon into his body shop, and, you know, 10 minutes later, it's out, and it's got this shiny new handle on it. You know,
And
So now we're not
anymore.
gonna, we're not gonna invest in anything better, because the
Yeah,
wagons
the
were.
wagons work pretty good. And, yeah, but there's a lot of enthusiasm handing out.
Yeah.
stuff on it if you can help grow it or prepare it, or just as you're meeting people and having a conversation with folks.
And we're also going to, every other week, go to another farm, which is from the northern suburb, which is a conference and camp center and they're starting a garden ministry, and we're gonna bring whoever can come with us to do a couple hours of work. You know, and a lot of people don't even know what a plant looks like that this grows off, so, you know, hopefully that'll be, we had a couple different times where people came with us from the broader community, and hopefully that'll grow this year too. To get people out of the city and.
So we come up and just help them weed, seems like an awful lot of weeding, which doesn't sound like fun, but when you're in the car for 45 minutes, when
Getting,
5 or 6
you
people.
learn a lot about people.
Yeah, you travel up there and then you're working, you might be harvesting or weeding or how many steaks in it or, and then have an ice cream on the way home. Some family showed up with kids and then just having that conversation again for the way home. And, yeah, so it's a great way to meet people outside of that 1 hour.
Yeah.
For, Saturday for us or for Sunday for most people, where that's the only church you get. So I think there's so many things on going to your garden church. I mean, to me, that's what a lot of it is. It's just, it's another reason to get together and to do something, but if you can actually grow food and then figure out how to cook it, right? There's some funky stuff that grows, you're like, what am I gonna do with that, right?
I joined a CSA, which is a community supported agriculture, and what I love about them is, like, obviously I'm not picking it up today, but it's getting donated to the local food pantries. And so that's lovely. But like the first time I saw a turnip, like that was the one that I was like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
What do I even do with that? And so these things are getting handed out. Yeah, I do think, I'm trying to convince our local food bank, it's probably like 15 churches together, ecumenical, to just produce like a piece of paper that would have some simple recipes, or like, here's how you store this. That'll make it last the longest. But then, I'm gonna be the one that's producing this every time. So maybe that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's.
But there might be somebody out there that really enjoys that.
Yes, right, I'm hoping that someone will find that passion with me. I'm willing to help, but not follow me. Yeah.
Cabbages is one of the things we had, an abundance of cabbages. We had like so many cabbages, they all came one time and we just ended up with a ton. And so we're walking through the neighborhood with the cabbages, so we started asking people that were like excited about cabbages, what are you doing? Like, getting all these recipes from the neighbors, I boil mine and bacon, right? And we're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Deal with this. Everybody had these spinning recipes. So a great conversation.
I'm interested in the idea of food deserts. It's fairly well known concept. And how community gardens, I know you're.
We're in a food desert.
Would you guys be considered?
We were, but all these just, thank God I came into the neighborhood. So, yeah, we were. That's why why we started doing what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still hard because people still run out of money, but at least it's something. Yeah.
And just kind of, what have you noticed in what y'all are doing?
I know this was just like such a stark reminder of the reality of where we are to me. I guess it was 2 weeks ago, we got a pallet of green beans. Like my nephews, they won't eat green beans, no matter what you try to do. You can bribe them, here's $100 bills, please, just eat the green beans. And we had like 4 and 5-year-old kids who were coming to the church and saying, can I have another can of green beans to take home? Like, these green beans were great, can we have more green beans? And there's one convenience store, most of the people who live there don't have cars, and public transportation is not easy. So there's one convenience store, and you can get candy bars and chips and those things, but green beans was this huge deal. People were really grateful for the green beans. And
We grew collard greens and some other types of greens in our community. Somebody suggested it. I was thinking, nobody's gonna want that.
yeah,
This thing that
that's the way things have been at
the
Mercy Junction.
Yeah.
Yep.
Loved it, but they can't grow a garden.
Yeah.
Which is all
And even
over.
kids, and we had applesauce, and the kids went crazy about the applesauce. Huge. One of the things we're sort of working on, we haven't gotten very far in it, is a gleaning program with local farmers, and getting the high school students to do some of the gleaning. So I don't know how that's it's really gonna happen, but we're working on it.
Over at our churches, who you've gone to. They were like that.
Were you able to bring back a lot of food?
I wasn't part of the group. They came back talking about it. Yeah, there's something about, I don't know what it is, that we started a community garden in my community. This is the second thing we've grown it. And I call it a community farm, actually, because I'm in a farming area. There's a lot of old tobacco farms, and some of them are transitioned to other things now. What happened was, we wanted to do it behind the church. We had a fairly good field, but we figured out that water would be prohibitively expensive on city water. So we ended up going out to a place of land about 2 miles out of town. And it's actually a little farm, it's like half an acre. And the guy gets out on the tractor, and then one of the guys who helped start it actually owns an irrigation company that does that, slow drip irrigation. And so it just came together, and so in the first year, the garden grew over 2,000 pounds of produce. And they're going for more this year. What I've noticed is, once you get one or two folks that catch that vision and can invest the time, it's an idea that people from all different political perspectives, all different economic levels, just jump into. And it's really a gospel kind of moment to see that come together. You know? And it's even spawned some other stuff, like one of the guys who volunteers is married to a teacher at Lobo Elementary School. And so she got her second grade class to start build a couple boxes outside the school. And so now they're growing food as part of an educational unit they're doing. It's just like, wow.
Heard of churches being able to do potatoes in their like macadam space. I'm not sure how that works, if they're like in a bucket or what, but a lot of churches I heard in the city of Harrisburg are doing potatoes that way. Very interesting.
I have somewhat of a practical question. You guys have boxes, right? You said you got 8 boxes now? We started the community garden park with a public school, a charter school that's on our block. And we just kind of thought about the community garden, but I hadn't really found anyone who really wanted to do it besides myself, and I felt like I didn't have the expertise to just run with it. And so we had an assistant teacher wanted to do an after-school program with gardening. He asked if he could do some of our thing. I was like, yeah, absolutely. In exchange, you can teach me how to do it. Tell me what I need to do. We'll make our own. So we have 3 boxes. You just use like cinder blocks. I think they're like 10 by 3 or something like that. Yeah. And it turns out our box, we have a little more follow through than the assistant teacher. They started in garden much better. So we're going to take it over in the summer. But one of the things I was thinking is, why don't I connect their 2 boxes? You know what I'm saying? Like why? You guys have 8 boxes, right? And so there's space between the boxes, right? So how come I don't?
You just want to be able to get around every Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we had a lot of, there's actually the town playground, so one of the people that partnered with was like, oh, we just gotta turn all this all over. But we're right next to the highway too. So you gotta think about, if it's growing, what kind of soil is it? Not really growing.
Right.
So if you're we're right on an intersection of the big highway, so it's probably like in the soil. So building a box and then loading it with good farm soil.
Yeah.
We also have like things too about wheelchair accessibility for people with their wheelchairs in the garden and making sure some of the beds are raised high enough and they can get a chair down the spaces between the boxes.
Okay.
I was in Johnson City on a work project, and we were working in a farm. And one thing they did was they went out into the community and they had people sponsor gardens. So like Home Depot had a garden, and school had a garden, and they would get volunteers to work the garden, so it took the burden off. Some of that burden was taken away, and it made it. The community got to own it too. There was an investment there, And one of we were talking earlier, there's a group home or whatever for disabled folks in wheelchairs, and what they do is to make it easier for them to garden is they put their boxes up. So they were able to get at them in their chairs and stuff. So it was just really, really, it was just awesome to see that. So, it's a great way to get out to the community and make people know that whether it's a school or a business, people stick their sign in front of their garden that says Home Depot's garden is free advertisement. And then they did a contest for scarecrows. Whoever had the coolest looking scarecrow, they won a contest. So there was all kinds of ways to really get the community involved too, which I thought was awesome. So.
One thing, when you're talking about the watering that we were able to do is we set a rain barrel system up off of the gutters of the church. And the church where we are has very, very thin budget. And they were paying it was almost $2,000 a year for runoff fees. And because we're catching all the water now that waters their garden, they're not having to pay the runoff fees.
Wow, that's awesome.
So everybody wanted that. And most of the time we have enough water to water the garden. We're still having to use city water sometimes, but.
So they were concerned that water come off the roof.
Yeah, that's what some of our people are saying, you can't do that.
You can't do it, it's okay for flowers.
Maybe, I think it depends on what kind of roof.
Yeah.
Maybe they have a.
Oh, I could ask my husband.
I don't know. Yeah, that's
I
a
would
good
like to
question
know.
for
My
you.
husband's an environmental specialist.
Yes.
We've never had that conversation, and we may be poisoning everybody.
Anybody died?
Not
Yeah.
directly related to the garden.
Because it's a
Yeah,
great
let me ask
concept.
about that.
Yeah.
Ironically, invited.
Okay, so that's what we wanted to do.
We wanted to do
but
too,
everyone's
the
like,
green
"Oh."
bucket
Yeah.
right next to the garden, so people
Yeah.
let dry water, right? Concept for having
Yeah.
water themselves.
We have the hoses hooked up so that it just
Yeah.
goes directly down to the garden.
Yeah, that'd be
That's a
great.
good
That's a
question.
good
Yeah, let me
one.
check into that.
And local newspapers tend to love this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's a community interest stories. We've had a lot of coverage. I've got a lot of extra volunteers.
I mean, I tend to think that the plant's got its natural filtration system in it, and it's gonna, but I could be all wrong.
Yes.
What's falling out of the files might be just as bad.
Yeah.
I would hope it's better than like pesticides and things.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
How do people share the food? I know our garden, half of it goes to the volunteers who work. We have, whenever they do the picking, there's just a place you can come and get your share. And then half of it goes to the local food pantry, although now they started a thing where there's a backpack buddies program too, and they're offering produce to the families. So some of the kids will go home with a little bag of tomatoes or something. But how do you guys do your, where does the food go, who decides?
We have a food pantry, so we get rid of even,
And,
besides Saturday, we get rid of everything. With everything else is, you can only have a certain amount of carne also satisfied, just let people take whatever they want of the fresh produce, so. And people don't take stuff they're not gonna use. So, we're lucky that way, because we don't have the refrigeration space to keep store a lot either, and it gets really hot in there, so.
Well, we're probably right, is people that can afford it will actually give us a donation. They don't ask what they want, so it's like, we'll never turn it down. But it's not advertised as this is 10 cents, and this is a quarter, and like that, it's all if you want, we eat it, take it, concept. They're very happy to have a bag of 4 ears of corn and some tomatoes or something like this. Whatever it is, it's growing down. But it does come, the hard thing, it all comes at one time. That's it's not evenly like spread out.
you get a little bit every week.
Right, also mixed combo of everything.
It's like they were planting it, I'm like, don't plant too many beans, and everyone's ignoring me. Okay. Like, I'm going down there all the time.
We have a free store at Renaissance Church, so, everything has gone out through the free store. One of the things we know though is that there are people in the community who won't come to the church, so I love the idea of going out of the community with the red wagons, that's a great idea. We've also been working with Food Not Moms, which is a group that just makes food and feeds people in the park every Sunday. So we're hoping we've gone and helped them serve the food they have, but we're hoping we can also have enough left to help supplement with, because they're begging every week we need food for this Sunday's meeting, so we're hoping we can help with that too. And then we have a lot of folks who just like stop by the garden and we'll harvest something out there and say, here's food.
Yeah, we tell our food pantry people to just come whenever and pick whatever they want. I'm not sure, I don't think that many people do, because they still feel like it's the churches, but I hope, I'm gonna encourage that even more. Maybe even this time, pick what you want,
How about the organization? That's probably been the biggest challenge. Us is deciding how we want to organize. And the guy who did it, he did a great job, but yeah, he went a little bit overboard, because there's like 4 different committees, and there's a communications committee, and a planting committee, and a irrigation committee.
Wow.
We're pretty.
You have it together.
I'm just a cheerleader. But it works. I mean, I guess that's key.
Well, then it's okay.
Yeah. But they had 2-hour meetings.
That is not working.
Do they make you go to those meetings?
I tend to show up and say, is there anything I need to know? Oh, I gotta get to them.
Get a phone call.
But I'm just curious what the different kinds of organization, ministry side.
For us, it kind of amounts to throwing a post up on Facebook that says, hey, we're gardening 4 to 6, come on down.
Yeah.
We just really need volunteers tonight. Ours is very informal right now.
I mean, we made an announcement, kind of like, oh, we're gonna build a garden classes next week, and then, right after, like, kind of get everybody excited,
Yeah, we capture people after
It's-
worship.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we talk it up, make it,
People want to
you make
stay
it sound
around.
like fun, they're gonna go, you make it sound like it's work, I'm gonna go do some weeding, always a show.
Don't ever use the word weeding.
You're good at just telling people they're gonna help, and they do, they just follow you. So, that's good. Yeah.
It's to make it enjoyable. Even if you don't eat the vegetables, if you don't like the green beans, right? You can still water. Like when with the first box we built, we said we'll build it and see what happens. Because we didn't really have any, we didn't even know what the plan was. We didn't know what was gonna be water, was it gonna be carrots, was it gonna be beans, we didn't know. But people showed up with beans. And then some people complained, oh, those are really old beans, they're not gonna grow, right? Or something, so it wasn't perfect, right? See what happens, right? And then one of the neighbors, which I think it was the gardener, really got us connected with her, they would walk their dog, but they would stop and water the plants for us. And, and then she was really the first one that we reached outside of the actual people that were building the boxes, kind of brought her into it.
That's one thing that I wish was different about our garden, is that it's not in town. It's out on a highway, it is one-way highway. And we don't get that, people just walking by saying, oh, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
I've heard stories from other community gardens that they get the best volunteers that way.
The gathering.
Do you have lots of space?
Yes, well, yeah, it's a huge farm.
That's
This guy,
awesome.
and he gave us a tiny little corner of it.
They got if you walk around just the property here, look what they're doing. They got some
Fantastic.
gardening going on.
Yeah, they got green. They're over their green.
Yeah.
And they've got the kind of slow drip irrigation, which is fascinating. The plants just take off.
We had the critters that come at nighttime too, you know, the plants when they're small.
Yeah.
You know, a woodchuck or whatever is happy and fed well. So we were trying to think, what do we do to, you know, 'cause we weren't thinking of problems where animals would come out and eat the baby, you know.
None of us are really good gardeners.
You know.
Okay, my biggest challenge is we have, and I don't know how you handle this, to be nice, and we have little children who will go into the garden and start pulling things up, and it's just like, and their parents are just like, oh yeah, that's a really great tomato plant, and like, how do you keep the children out of the garden when their parents aren't in control of the plants?
Putting a fence up, it says no trespassing, kind of underlines.
Yeah, that's all.
So-
But there's this one little boy, he goes up there every Sunday morning and just starts yanking, and his mom's like, oh,
And
that's
talk
so
to
cute.
the mom, I would just have a serious
Yeah.
conversation with the mom.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I'd like to pull it and talk to him. Make Brian do it.
Oh, that would be, yes, I will be the one who gets assigned that task.
You know, there's always a bulletin announcement, or, you know, we have Harvard, the monthly thing that goes out there, mailing. You know, hey, can you make sure, well,
Destroy the garden.
destroy our stuff. It's-
We the kids at the church are my labor force. Right. It's really, I mean, it's really their garden, like that's kind of, because I didn't know very much what I was doing. And we got a Zumba class that meets, and we offer free childcare during the Zumba class. Right? And so I'm one of the childcare workers during the Zumba care. So we planted the seeds in Zumba care, and we took them out, and we water them, and you know, do whatever during this hour while their moms are doing Zumba. And so they really, you know, sometimes they complain like, oh, that's boring. I'm like, I know it takes a minute. We're just gonna go water real quick. You know, we'll play basketball afterwards. We'll do whatever. You know, but they like it, and so like a couple weeks ago, one little 3-year-old girl who after church, apparently I heard this during Zumba care when I was watering because I was doing something else on Sunday morning. They said that Samena went out and she pulled some of the plants, and they were very defensive.
The other children?
The other children they were reporting this to me, that Samena had done this, and they tried to stop it because it's their garden.
Yeah.
Right? Like they're invested in ownership. So the kids really want the plants to grow. I mean, it's taken a while. Like now they find our snap peas that we're able to pull off a couple and they can see them. But it's taken, you know, the seeds were exciting, but as we're slowly growing, it's a little bit slow for them. So I was worried that they weren't into it, but they really did. They were upset that Samena had done this.
So maybe the
They
children
reported
will
it.
police the other children.
Right, yeah, if they have a sense of ownership of it, then they
It's a
kind
good
of know that they need to do
Yeah.
So you're not in boxes, you're in a field?
We're in boxes.
You're in boxes.
something.
And he slings around his head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it sounds terrible to me. I was happy. I was happy I didn't
I
witness
just
that.
want to walk around in the front of the church for a while.
So you know, when we go to help with one farm, the actual farm, we have some kids with us and they don't know where to walk. So
Yeah.
they just run, right? And of course, they're gonna step on a pepper plant and just try and, so you gotta, you know, do the irrigation, don't step on those, or you keep reminding them, but,
Then they get excited.
maybe too excited and run to find mom or show or something, right? And it's like, so what worked well with them was, I had them pick rocks. They just move rocks into a rock pile, right? And they could see that they were doing something, so they would even pick up a rock, you know, big enough for them to carry, but
Kept them busy.
make the rock pile excited.
Sure,
And then
tell me.
they were so refreshed, reading their energy content. I didn't have anybody
Yeah.
who wanted to with a 3 plant, so it was more just
That's a good
very
idea.
direct their evening where they're going to have them go run and walk, drink an awful lot of water that day.
Yeah, I know, Philip, where do you know that? Yeah.
Those are good ideas.
So where would you say, do you even try to cast a vision for where you're headed, or is it truly just, we're gonna fill out some plants, see what happens? Or as it gets successful, do you start having?
Who knows?
Somebody in your group knows what to do, right? I mean, our group, Karen, I think, is organized.
Here in Lemoore, we have two that, and they fight. They can't agree on anything, so there isn't a vision, trust me. But it works. I just, no. I mean, it just is working.
The only big discussions as far as planning that we had is we were gonna do 16 beds, and I said, I think we should see where we are in July. Maybe start with 8. That was my big fear, is that we were gonna plan more than we could reasonably care for once it really started happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you end up with a lot of weeds and a lot to pick,
Yeah.
And everybody goes on vacation in the summer.
Yeah.
We ended up where our beds were, and then the people that mowed the lawn complained a little bit that they had to go up and down.
We get some pushback on that too.
So we ended up putting more in the same line, and then we haven't done it yet, but we're gonna do grass out, just mulch between the beds.
Yeah, that's
So
what we did.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so they don't have, so that's their big complaint. Mine is without beds, but it takes an extra 15 minutes to mow the lawn.
Yeah.
Whereas, so,
Yeah, we ran into that, and we just did mulch between our beds.
Mhm.
It's amazing how community gardening is just exploded. I can't remember the first time I heard about a church doing a community garden, but it wasn't more than about 10 years ago. Maybe not even that long. And now it seems like they're all over.
I think the next step, when you kind of hit it on it early, is teaching them how to cook,
What
right?
do you with that?
We're
Right.
teaching-
I want to learn a can.
Trying to tell you.
Even if it's a little recipe card or something, we can hand out and say, here's what you can do with it.
Because I think ultimately, one of the benefits is just health.
Yeah.
Community health. It's beyond just people that don't have food, but for other folks that who just don't, especially, certain generations that have never known how to cook a healthy meal, don't even know what. You see kids that can't even identify the different vegetables, because everything they've ever eaten was a package of a grocery.
Well, yeah, it goes beyond, here's a can. Yeah, it'll give me a help to feed you. It's now, being more serious about the health and the quality of that food that we're giving.
Are any of you active in your food pantries? Did your guidelines all change from what you give out? Our food bank sets up, the best practice, you're supposed to follow, and protein went way down, and fruits and vegetables went way up.
Yes,
So
they did.
we got a lot of this push, just like what's going on,
Right.
we eat this much meat, we don't eat this much vegetables and fruit. So that's been a challenge for our pantry people, just to learn to fill up there, because we have a great food bank, and they do nutrition classes, and we did one of those spots, and show the plate and how, your stuff is supposed to.
Yeah.
And they also are doing a great job of ordering fresh produce, the food bank itself, that we can get for free, because they got some big grants. But yeah, our food bank is really helpful in that. But that's been really hard for people to negotiate. Yeah. If you don't get like one, it's like, which is saving us a lot of money, because the fruits and vegetables are less expensive.
Right.
Yeah.
What you were saying a minute ago is it takes it beyond that level of, here's some food we're gonna give you. I think with the gardening too, in our community, some of the people who we are giving the food to, they're coming and gardening with us, so they're creating this, they're putting their own labor into it. It's not so much this handout, it's more creating together.
Yeah, and it's the relationship
Yeah.
building that then comes out of that.
Yeah.
We have found that, so the church that houses, has a huge community garden, and they house our food pantry for the area. And so it's nice to have them, a lot of people are asking, well, can I come after work and help lead it, or can I do something? And so they're coming, and so they're building those additional relationships. And so, yeah, maybe they're not coming to church, that's fine.
Yeah.
But we're having those deeper conversations with them, which I think is important. So it's a different form of church.
Yeah.
And it's being okay with that. It's new for the community, but it's being okay.
it kind of depends on where you are. Like where we are, is one of the places, of course, zip code in the city of Syracuse. And we get like 3 blocks away, now we're into the area where, housing is very important, the drug economy is picking up, right? So if you cross each block, you can just see the depth of, right? You wouldn't feel safe walking there by yourself. That's usually right there, right? So we're right on the, so it's, it is interesting, but a lot of it is where does your growth concept? Who's going to come or is it just? Do they even know what to do?
The senior citizens all know what to do.
They do.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So many of them had gardens in their, earlier lives.
They're taking our head
Yeah,
classes.
yeah.
So that's gonna be, I'm really excited about
Yes, we need success stories on how to teach, how to cook. It'd be interesting to hear. That's interesting.
We need some way to communicate with each other so we can
Don't they
share
do
these things.
a new list or something? I can't remember if we did that last year.
You can head out of my room there.
I got it.
Yeah, right. I'll talk to you tonight.
Okay.
Even though Rick is full test.
Y'all have got me fired now. Yeah.
Because I feel like the water test is fast. He does lead and air and all of
Yeah.
those testing.
I mean, that might be more just, I don't know.
Yeah.
They're kind of like, oh, okay. I
It
just
would
let
be
things go.
cool to exchange ideas.
Yeah.
I can message you if the kids get too out of control.
Yeah.
There's going to be children killed in the garden.
That would drive me nuts.
My grandmother was so strict about that, like, don't touch that line, don't walk there, don't walk here. And this is just running crazy in the garden, and I feel like my grandmother.
Yeah,
What did you use for the rain barrels?
Brian got them, they're big plastic barrel, I think they were made to be rain barrels. Yeah.
You can make your own. Are you on Pinterest?
I am.
There are some, if you just search do-it-yourself rain barrels,
Okay.
there's some awesome
Yeah.
drawings and things of how to do that for cheap.
And you just took off a little bit of like the rain gutter, set it under.
He set the gutter so it fills into the barrel, and then the church is on a slope. So this barrel fills, and then the one behind it fills, and then it's got it all connected with hoses. So I think we have 8 barrels. And when this one up here is empty, then it starts pulling from this one to water the garden. Then there's a hose that flows downhill, so you just open the spigot on the barrel and let water comes out. I wasn't involved in creating the system. I'm just like, oh, well, they're cool, that's fine.
yeah.
I need a Brian.
We definitely, our buildings are for sale. And so we're like, if we do sell the one building, we're looking at one building.
Right, yeah.
So we're kind of looking at the new owner bought all 3 buildings and the okay to keep their boxes. So we haven't really told them we're going to be taking their water and garden, but it's kind of obvious that it's there.
Gotta water them, so.
But, we were thinking that first, that the school building is sold separately. And we did water, and that's when we got really into the water.
Yeah, but
It's collecting rainwater for them. But then that got shut down, actually. So, very interested in that.
What kind of roof?
What kind of?
It's a rubber roof, it's up there. And you just,
Well, how about the parish house? That's
Very
asphalt.
fast.
That's what we have on the church.
Sleep was trying to find.
Yeah, and
You know.
you worry about cost. I'm trying to,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Drinking water flows through copper, right?
That's true.
I'll look into that.
before the dinner mix.
Yeah, that's what it's talking about, dude.
And
Oh, the food is really
Yeah. He said they did, I went to Louisville. He said they had 6,000 pounds of vegetables last year.
Where did you guys go to? You know?
About 15 minutes away. I have no idea.
The live stream is running.
anybody else?
Highlights for you.
We're going to do that.
There's somebody right now.
The city of Chattanooga is getting ready to move.
There's box out there too. It's like a plastic first unloading. Kind of help with the water.
It does.
With,
Not coming.
Which box is it?
Although, I was supposed to ask him to turn it
Oh,
off.
look,
Did
there's,
somebody-
there's a button that says stop
So
broadcast.
somebody turned it on,
Oh, look, we couldn't even see half of us. That's
Oh.
funny.
but that's okay.